For most of human history, getting food could take about 2 hours. Not 8, not 10, 2. You're a long one off this morning, 6:30. You got up, got dressed, started working. You will do that again tomorrow. Your ancestors did not, and the rest of the day was theirs. That is not a guess. In the 1960s, an anthropologist named Richard Lee went to the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa. He lived with a group called the Jew hoansi. They are one of the best studied hunter-gatherer groups on Earth. Lee wanted to measure something no one had properly measured before: how long hunter-gatherers actually work each day. He followed them with a notebook and a watch. He timed every task: foraging, walking, digging, carrying, cooking. He added it all up. The average was about 2 to 4 hours a day. And not every day. They often worked one day and rested the next. Some days the men hunted. Some days the women gathered roots and tubers. Some days nobody did much of anything. And they were not starving. They were not living in the constant starvation researchers expected. Lee's numbers did not match what anyone expected. The assumption had always been simple. Life without farming, factories, or money must be brutal. Constant work, constant hunger, constant fear. That assumption collapsed under real data. In 1966, Marshall Sahlins used Lee's findings to argue something radical. He called hunter-gatherers the original Affluent Society, not because they had more, but because they wanted less. Their needs were small. Their skills matched their land perfectly. And the gap between what they needed and what they had was almost zero. That is a kind of wealth most modern people have never experienced. You measure wealth in money. They measured it in time. And by that standard, they were richer than you. But it was not just the Kalahari. Thousands of kilometers east, in northern Tanzania, researchers studied the Hadza, a completely different environment, different food sources, different climate. The pattern was remarkably similar. Men worked about 5 to 6 hours a day. Women worked slightly more, once you included food processing and cooking. But the word productive meant something completely different to them. It did not mean one task, one desk, one output. It meant walking, gathering, digging, carrying, processing, cooking, repairing, and sharing. 8 kinds of work woven through a single day. A Hadza woman might walk an hour before sunrise to reach a digging site. She would spend 20 minutes pulling tubers from hard, dry ground. Then she would walk back, chewing on one as she went. That was breakfast. Children cracked baobab fruit on rocks and picked berries from thorn bushes. A man might climb a baobab tree to reach a wild beehive, bees stinging his arms and face while he pulled out dripping honeycomb. Honey made up roughly 15% of the Hadza diet. By late afternoon, the food work was mostly finished. If a hunter brought back meat, it was divided immediately. Not out of simple generosity. Hoarding caused conflict. Sharing prevented it. The meat spoiled fast. Keeping it made no practical sense. Everyone ate together, or no one ate well. No one was set apart from the group. James Suzman, an anthropologist who spent decades with the Jew hoansi, described it clearly. There was no unemployment or retirement in the modern sense. If you were part of the group, you had a role. Not a job title, a role. The group adjusted to you, not the other way around. And when the sun went down, everything changed. In 2014, Polly Wiessner published a study in the journal PNAS. She recorded what the Jew hoansi talked about during the day and at night. During the day, the conversations were practical. Where to dig, who was difficult, what needed repair. At night, around the fire, the topics shifted completely. They told stories, they sang, they talked about people in distant camps. They resolved tension that had built up during the day. The Firelight conversation was not entertainment. It was the glue that held the group together. It built trust. It eased conflict. It kept the band alive. That same rhythm still lives in you. You come home from work exhausted. You sit down, you talk. The real conversation begins only after dark. That evening pattern may be older than agriculture itself. Then, about 10,000 years ago, something changed everything: agriculture. Early farmers planted wheat, barley, and lentils in the Fertile Crescent. For the first time in human history, food could be stored, controlled, and defended. And with surplus came something that had never existed before: ownership. Not just of food, of land, of labor, of other people's time. In 1987, Jared Diamond called agriculture the worst mistake in human history. Some physical evidence pointed in that direction. Early farmers were shorter than foragers. Their bones were weaker. Their teeth showed more decay. Their diet narrowed from dozens of wild foods down to a handful of grains. Their health declined. But there was something worse. Work increased dramatically. Planting, weeding, watering, harvesting, storing, guarding. Every season, every year, no pause. The field did not care if you were tired. The Jew hoansi worked 2 hours and rested. Early farmers worked longer, harder, and still went hungry when the harvest failed. And the change could not be undone. Surplus fed larger groups. Larger groups needed organization. Organization needed hierarchy. Hierarchy needed obedience. And obedience needed a schedule. That is where the alarm clock begins, not as a tool of convenience, as a tool of command. Be here, do this, on time. The job as you know it is an invention. For most of human history, it did not exist. There were no careers in the modern sense. No employer, no employee. There were skills, and there was time. The work took a few hours. The rest of the day was open. No task was done alone, and no task belonged to someone else. That arrangement lasted for roughly 300,000 years. The one you live in now has lasted about 10,000. Your body was built for the first one. Your schedule was built for the second. James Suzman put it simply: for most of human history, people worked to live. Now, most people live to work. And the difference is not just philosophical. It sits in your chest every Sunday night. That low, heavy dread before Monday. That feeling is not weakness. It is a 300,000-year-old body asking one simple question: why are we still doing this? Your alarm is still set for 6:30, but your ancestors never needed one. The sun was enough, and so were 2 hours.